You're listening to the Late Night Playset Podcast. Tonight's live late night broadcast is brought to you by Los Angelo Living, losangeloliving.com.
Hey Jay Ryan, hey Nicole. Here you go again. I'm bringing you into my new listing, another one. Come check it out. Look at this pool. Look at this yard. 24,000 square foot flat lot, 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, single-story ranch, mid-century in the heart of Encino in the hills. So come check it out. We're selling houses over here, guys. Thanks for taking this tour of 4000 Sapphire. We're so excited to show it to you. So give us a call, DM, text, email, whatever it is you want to do to give us a shout so we could show you this on a private COVID tour. Take care.
Yeah, all right. Well, this may be a test, this may be a show. We'll find out in just a couple minutes here. Welcome back to the Late Night Playset Podcast. There we are. Hi there. Welcome back to the Late Night Playset Podcast. My name is Jay Ryan. Mrs. Ryan is on assignment. And today we are theoretically going to be having a conversation with Mr. Johnny Lieberman. I'm not entirely sure. We were working on the technicals of it. And if he jumps in here in just a couple minutes, we'll be all set. Otherwise, I'll probably stop it and we'll record this again in a few minutes when we can figure it out. But we wanted to go live anyway and try to keep the streak alive. Let's see. I guess we're just going to have to wait here for a minute. How is everybody? How are you? How are you at home? I had an emotional evening. that show talking about Grant yesterday kind of took it out of me. Talked to Tori about it this morning. It was weird. It was weird. There's so much stuff I didn't mention that I kept thinking about, you know. Grant built the robot, Jeff Peterson, on Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, the one before James Corden. And I went with him a number of times to to tapings of those shows. Sometimes he would just go, to maintain the robot or whatever. But usually he would go beyond the show. And hang on one second. I should check in with Johnny Lieberman here. All right. We'll see what this is. I have a feeling we're probably going to stop it and then come back. There we are, through the magic of, I would say through television, but I guess the magic of internet and podcasting these days. We are back with Mr. Johnny Lieberman. What's up, Johnny Lieberman?
Yo. Nothing. Where's Nicole?
She is not here. She's not here. This is just me. This is just me today. Hope that's all right. Were you wanting to talk to her instead?
I mean, obviously, but you'll work. You're okay.
I haven't seen you this way maybe ever, because you had a big beard, and then when I saw you the other day, you were a ball cap, sunglasses, and a mask. You look
Twice. You
great,
saw me
man.
twice disguised up like that. That's right. Yeah. Well, my beard was getting out of control. So the woman who cuts my hair, she also trims my beard, and I haven't seen her in a while for some reason. So I had my wife cut my beard, and then my 3-year-old wanted to play with the scissors, and I was like, you know what, a mustache. But again, like my beard's already mostly grown back, so
Oh,
it'll
so
be
you did
back.
have just the stash for a little bit.
I mean, for a week. I mean, it's still just a stash.
It's you got the it's blending quickly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
blending quickly.
My facial hair grows at an alarming rate.
Is it even worse now that you're at home? I find that my grooming, I don't know if it's maybe just because I'm not out and about. I find like I'm constantly re-grooming stuff.
Oh, as you can tell, I'm really I I sit around worrying about my hair. Um, no, it's just that it got really long. I usually trim my beard probably every 3 months. So this I'll make it relevant to people that care about cars. The Bronco, as you know, went live. I shot a video with some prototype Broncos in February with my friend Sean Holman, who's the editor in chief of like Four Wheeler and Truck Trend and all that. Um, and in that video, his beard is like, I don't know, 4 times as large as mine is. And then right before I cut this, my beard was actually longer than his, and he hadn't trimmed his. So it's just my beard
So it
grows
might
faster.
sneak up on you.
Yeah, but we can segue to Bronco now, is what I'm saying.
Well, you know what? It's on the blue card because I happen to notice that you are one of the individuals who placed a deposit. You got your order in. Are you? No, no. I thought you put in your. No. Oh, you don't. But do you want one? Do you like it? You took the picture that everyone's posting.
Yeah. I've never driven it, so my policy. No one ever believes me, but my policy is like I don't really want things I haven't driven.
Wow.
Um, I hope it's good. I like the way it looks. I'd like to compare it to a Jeep, but you remember, like they showed the Bronco on Tuesday, the 14th or 13th, Monday the 13th, a day that will live in internet infamy. And customers won't be driving them for till 2021, and probably pretty deep into 2021. Media won't be touching them till January of 21. So Ford loves to do this long, slow reveal. I don't find it particularly sexy, but some people like the slow dance. So
I didn't realize it. I didn't realize any of that.
no one realizes it. Everyone's like, "I'm getting my Bronco, Bronco." It's like you're not getting your Bronco.
It's more of a Kickstarter. You're
What's
funding
that?
the Bronco.
Yeah, well, they haven't even finalized the horsepower and torque figures yet. They're saying at least this much, and so
Then why is this different than when they just put out the mules and the bucks way back when, whatever they had way back when, saying like this might be the new Bronco?
They never really did that with this one. They just showed teaser images.
Oh, okay.
But this is exactly what they did with many Fords, but the GT500 was the last one they did this. So if you remember, they were like, yep, like 18 months before the car was driven, they said it's going to make more than 700 horsepower. And then when everyone was, kind of sick of the GT500, they said 760 horsepower. So what Ford is saying right now, if you read the fine print, they're saying that the base engine is going to make at least 270 horsepower and at least 310 or 15, whatever the V6 makes. When it comes time, they're going to up those numbers. And especially, I think, because Jeep was really smart. They've had this V8 powered Wrangler ready to go for a long time, and they were just waiting for the right moment. So they're going to drop a 495 horsepower V8 Wrangler.
So that's actually happening. That folklore thing that was like someday.
Yeah, the 392. Yeah, it'll probably be at the mid-cycle refresh of the Jeep, which will, by the way, happen probably when the Bronco comes out. So the JL gets refreshed approximately 4 years after it launched. I think it launched late 2017 is a 2018 model, so midway through 2021 might be a little early, but they want to take away any Bronco sales they can or block Bronco sales. And I've known about the V8 Wrangler. I think I tweeted about it or Instagrammed about it, but I've known about it since November of 18. I got my source planted deep within FCA, which by the way, did you hear this? FCA changed their name today.
No.
Yeah. So FCA, I got to look this up. FCA and PSA, Peugeot merged, and the new name is, you ready? Stellantis. Stellantis. Stellantis.
Way to clean it up.
Stellantis.
Wow. What is it? Does that mean anything? Is that just a random?
It does mean something. It's Greek for like rising or something, but
it's not enough for me.
FCA and PSA are not great. Stellantis is kind of like Tronc. Do you remember Tronc?
No. Well, maybe.
Tronc
I don't know.
Turner Media or something like that. Time Warner. They all merged up. They became Tronc, and it just failed. Let me just look up Tronc. Who became it? It failed in a totally spectacular way. Oh yeah, Tribune Publishing Company. They changed their name to Tronc, and then they quickly went back to Tribune Publishing because Tronc was such a horrible failure. So Stellantis, you tell me. I don't know. I've had 2 hours to laugh about it. What do you think of Stellantis?
Well, again, for me, any idea doesn't really mean anything until I find out what the impetus or the intention was or anything behind it. Not knowing a whole lot behind this, I kind of got to do the deep dive. But I know that it doesn't flow off the tongue very easily. It's not. It doesn't spring to the front of my lobe.
I have it. Hang on, I have it written down here. Sadly, it's in a text conversation that goes way up. Okay, hang on. This is bad podcasting. I understand, but it's worth it.
No, I think it's great. Take your time. Gives me a chance to relax.
Okay, Stellantis. I can't find it.
You looking up the origin or just what this one is?
I'm just looking up. It was in a text conversation I was having with my friends at Motor Trend, my coworkers. Here we go. It's from the Latin verb stello, which means to brighten with stars. Stellantis.
Okay. All right. Fine enough. Well, back to the Jeep for just a second. Do you think, I remember when the JL came out that they had beefed up the chassis like beyond belief, like the car is really, really rigid and stiff now. Was that maybe with always an intention of putting this giant power plant in there?
I mean, look, if you can fit a V6, odds are you can fit a V8. That's true about 90% of the cars in the world. Like the old Ford Tempo maybe couldn't take a V8 so easy, but it's not a huge jump from a V6. Because remember, it's the angle of the V.
Yeah.
That it's the width. It's not so much the length. You can always find a little bit of length. So Jeep's been doing Easter Jeep Safari concept Wranglers with V8s for like decades, and they've been ready to go. So no, I think on the old JK platform it could take a V8 pretty easy, and I think they've always future proofed it because the engineers are like, I'd love to put a V8 in this thing, it would be cool. And then the bean counters say, oh no, you can't do that. Well, who would buy that? What Stellantis is learning is who would buy a Hellcat? Well, it turns out 1 out of every 4 Challengers that rolls off the assembly line is a Hellcat. Like, people can't get enough. So,
holy crap! I didn't know that stat.
Yeah. Now, I should say that was true a while back. It might have changed. It might have been more. I mean, the Hellcats are everywhere. And you actually see a lot of 392s because they kept the price down. It's like $40,000 for 495 horsepower. So a lot of 392s are out there.
And you kind of get that same bark, right? It's still loud and aggressive and the whole bit. Maybe not as much.
Quite the same bark, but it's a bark. It's a great engine, and it's you can mod it if you need more power. But 500 horsepower is a lot for a lot of people.
Again, just on the Jeep,
797, which you now get with the Hellcat, but.
Yeah. Back to the Jeep just for a second, because I was a Jeep guy when I was a kid. I loved Jeeps.
Sure.
Am I crazy? Did they used to have a straight six, or was it always a V6? I
Oh
remember
yeah,
that
no, they had a
high
straight six.
output 4.0. Remember?
Yeah, no, they had a straight six forever. I mean, that was American Motors when American Motors owned Jeep before Chrysler bought American Motors. It was, I think it was a 2.6 liter straight six, and then it was a 4 liter straight six. And I
That
think
was in the
Renault,
Cherokees and everything.
yeah, but I think Renault, going back to the French connection, I think Renault, oh boy, Renault did the first Cherokee. That was a 2.8 liter, I want to say, straight six, not 2.6, 2.8 liter. So Renault was involved with that straight six, and now they've just merged again with a French company. So it's all
Coming back
Stellantis.
around.
It's all one big round Stellantis.
Well, the Stellantis, maybe, they had the Comet the other day. Everyone's taking pictures of the Comet.
That was totally Stellantis. Yeah,
When you were at Breakfast Club the other day, you were driving the new Porsche GT4.
I
I
was.
spent some time romping on the old GT4, and I
Yeah,
had my opinions of it. What do you think about the new one?
it's really good. I mean, it's kind of a hard formula to mess up, right? Like I'm going to make a chocolate sundae. How bad's it going to be?
Right.
You know.
Fair enough.
Um, yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a very lightweight, probably 3,000 pounds. And by the way, there's a chance we haven't weighed it yet because of coronavirus, our testing capabilities are gone. But there's a chance that the 4 liter naturally aspirated straight pancake six weighs less than the turbocharged um, 4 cylinder in the regular Cayman. So this thing could be very light, could be the lightest Cayman. Don't know yet. So
Oh, I
it's
see.
over
These stats
four.
aren't released yet. I didn't realize that.
Well, there's Porsche stats, but with the way manufacturers weigh cars, I'd love to actually be in the room when they do it because no one they can't ever seem to be accurate. It's like the craziest thing. Like Italians, they take all the fluids out of the cars. So what people don't realize is when you have 18 quarts of oil and 24 gallons of gasoline and no radiator fluid, like, wow, that Lamborghini
It's
is
another
really
300
light.
pounds.
Yeah, but you add 400 pounds back in, and then suddenly, you know, so, and also, in countries where you don't have the same safety standards we do. Now, Germany is probably very similar, but we one time years ago flew to Italy and weighed a Lamborghini with gas in it and fluids in it in Italy, and it was like 500 pounds lighter than the supposedly identical car that we eventually got in the States because no airbags, no door beams, just like safety stuff was just yanked out of it.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so never trust a manufacturer's weight because you don't know. Like in England, I think they do with 90% full gas tank. I don't know how they get to 90%. When we weigh cars, we just fill them up and then we drive. It's a standard thing. It's like 2 miles from the gas station. So every car we've ever tested is filled up with this one Chevron in Fontana, driven to the speedway and weighed there.
So that no matter what, at least your scale is always stable across the board.
Right, yeah, I mean, we sometimes we'll do it at the Hyundai Proving Ground. So, however much gas you can burn going
Sure.
40 miles an hour for 2 miles, a little bit, um, anyway. So in England, but they do it with like the driver in the car, 90% gas, and like one piece of luggage, and that's the curb weight.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so magazines that test, I think were very important for a lot of reasons, but the most important reason is we actually weigh the frickin' things, and the way we weigh them is with a full tank of gas and nothing else in the car, and no funny business.
To me, that
So
makes sense. I feel like that's what common
you,
sense wise, I
you
feel like that's what I would do.
you would think, but if you start looking at like car weight, especially Italians, but you'll see stuff like dry weight. And like, what's dry weight mean? And so it's all funny business. Anyway, so the GT4 very light, naturally aspirated, 414 horsepower, 300 some odd pound feet of torque, which is crucial because it has enough torque and power that even though it's the same gearbox from the last one, third gear is usable. On the last one, it was so like there was just yeah, you just kind of
Because
stayed
of the
in
power
second.
band.
You stayed in second because if you were to shift to third, it was just kind of gutless. It just didn't have the torque necessary. So by punching this out to 4 liters, as long as you're above 4,000 RPM. Now, I've driven with a lot of people that don't do a lot of canyon driving, and so they get nervous when an engine gets over 3,000, so they shift immediately. So And there
It's
are
just
those.
starting.
Hey, I always tell the story years ago when the Corvette, the C6 ZR1, I was like, 638 horsepower
The
back when
big
that
car,
motorcycle.
yeah.
It was just power. My buddy was bugging me. He's like, you got to let me drive it. You got to let me drive it. This is like 10 years ago. All right, all right, all right. Went out to this deserted road and he starts going. And like right at, 3,000, he shifts to second. And then at 3,000, he shifts to third. And all the way through six. And we're going, I don't know, 90 miles an hour in that car, which that car can do 90 in second.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And then we go back and he's like, gets out of the car. He's like, oh man, that was so crazy. That was, my mind is blown. So anyhow, not to throw my friend too far under the bus, but he divorced the actual friend I knew, so I'll never see him again. But the point is, there's enough.
Got rid of that guy.
Yeah, there's enough. Yeah, Greg. There's enough torque in the GT4 to make the transmission work. It's on those crazy Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 Porsche spec tires, which are the greatest tires in the world. So it's on huge 20-inch rubber. So it's got all the grip. It's got power. The handling. It's a Cayman. Caymans handle well. The only thing I'd fault it for in a real way is the damping's pretty poor, specifically the rear end of the car. And I don't think I'm saying anything out of school, but like the sophistication of the Cayman is an order of magnitude less than a 911. And so, yes, you get the front end off of a GT3, which is cool, but the rear end, and just for packaging reasons, and obviously one's mid-engine, one's front engine, so it's different, physically different suspension pieces. The rear of the Cayman lets it down. It just isn't. It's a poor ride. It's a very, even though it's like stable and grips, you're just shaking the whole time you're driving it.
Oh, so maybe that's the answer. It's too rigid, too tight, not loose. It's actually too rigid.
Yeah. And so what makes a 911 a 911? And so I think with the modern ones, 991 and forward, it's the damping is superlative. I mean, it's the world-class sports car that also you can relax and you have just a really great car to drive around. I drove the last Porsche I drove before this one was the Speedster, which might be the best car human beings have ever built. And and I might be under selling how good that car is.
But it gives you all the feels, doesn't it? And all the sounds and all the everything.
It's just kind of like perfect. But I remember driving it and like the everything about it's incredible. But I remember being really impressed by the ride. Like it's just like, wow, this is how I like a car to feel. And I saw you up there, but I took the GT4 up Angeles Crest twice, and I took it up to Malibu once. I saw you at Malibu too. And but it's just that's the only downside. Now look, a lot of people are going to track these cars. It'll be great on a track. Tracks are all buttery smooth. It won't make a difference. This car, the demographic's going to skew younger. It's going to be for either younger people or people who like to think they're younger. So the stiff ride, I don't think will be a problem. I'm just going to say, though, after like 25 minutes of really hammering on the car, which owners may never actually do that with the thing, you're pretty beaten up. You know what I mean? So like, I always think the mark of a great car is like not only one that inspires confidence, which the GT4 does, but like every time you see it, you're like, ooh, I should be up in the canyons with it. Like, why am I sitting at home? Yeah. And, if you can afford $100,000 car, odds are you have a couple other cars. And so like, you're probably not going to jump in this thing first every time. Whereas if you had like a Speedster, it's like, oh yeah. Now again, one costs a lot more. I get that, but
for sure.
But a base 911 base, with $100,000 base car, it's probably not quite as quick, but it's probably as good to drive or close to as good to drive. I don't know. It's not. It won't be as analog for sure. It's turbocharged and the transmission's a wash. I'd still rather have 6 speeds than 7 speeds in a manual. But
I was going to ask you that. So is it only PDK in the GT4, or can you do
right now? It's manual only, but
it's manual only
for now. But I just heard that they're going to put PDKs in them. and I get for track use that totally makes sense. I mean, the part of my brain that controls my left foot is totally atrophied because even though both the cars I own are manuals, I never touch them, and most cars sold are autos, and it's just I can't shift quickly anymore. I just can't do it.
Mm.
I can still heel and toe, but I'll be approaching a corner that I'm like, oh, you need to lift your left foot. You need to push in at the right time. And it's just that part of my brain's gone.
Did any of that factor into your opinions on that experience?
No. The shifter's actually really nice. I only missed one shift in probably 150 miles of hard driving, which to me makes it a superlative transmission. And to be fair, I think when I did that, I did something weird. I was trying to go second to third, and I like kind of banged the gate or whatever. It's a great transmission, great clutch take up, great pedal, great everything. I mean, it's really hard to fault that car. It's a great car.
What is your personal opinion? I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but for me, it's a thing. The automatic blip, whatever, the automatic rev blip thing. What do you feel about that? Because I drove a GT3 Touring the other day, and the first thing the guy did was, oh, let me put this on. I was like, get that shit. Oh, I'll do it. What are you talking about?
It's funny you say that. I was talking to Pete from Auto Kennel like a half hour ago.
And Paul.
Paul, sorry, I said Pete.
Yep.
I meant Paul. Yeah, sorry, Paul. Sorry, Paul. Pete. He posted a picture of a GT3 Touring, and I immediately did my standard thing, like needs more wing, because why would you get a GT3 without a wing? And he goes, oh, I hate these things, man. They're like manual only, and it does that stupid auto blip. And I'm like, you can turn that off. He's like, you can? I'm like, yeah, like.
I didn't know that either. He had to put it in Sport Plus or something in order to get rid of it. Is that what you do?
Yeah, I think the sport mode turns it off or something. I can't remember. He put a thing on Instagram.
Good.
Thanking me, which I was very proud of. But anyways, look, now I've spent a lifetime of driving, learning how to blip a throttle with like half of my right foot before I downshift. So I'm sort of envious of the fact that the computer will do it perfect every time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I want to grab two gears, or I don't want the engine to rev. So yeah. I don't like the auto blip. I know some people that love it. For me, it's no good. I didn't even try it once in the GT4 because who cares? Why would I? But I have talked to people and they have said like, "Oh, I love that. That's great." So,
I find the people that really love it are the people that don't know how to do it themselves, and I don't fault them for loving it. But that's what I find.
Yeah, it's sort of my old friend Damon said this. I remember I think the Nissan 370Z was the first car that offered it. But I remember I read his review when he used to review cars, and he's like, "This is like insulting. I spent a lifetime building up this skill, and now you're gonna take it away from me." But
I'm finally good at it now. You gave it to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, for me, it's why bother?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see eye to eye on that. I was just curious. It seems like it's that with a lot of the technology. These new cars, you can do everything with them. You don't need as much skill and talent as you used to get a car to go fast. In fact, anybody can just romp a pedal and get any car to haul ass these days, from a Honda Civic up to a 911 or whatever. The nannies, I wonder where that all comes in. I mean, people have been going off more and more up there lately, and it's not our people, it's newer cars and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's just there's more and more cars up on Angeles Crest. I don't think how do I put this? The frequency of Porsches going off is up because there's a lot more Porsches up there because of the lockdown. People are bored out of their minds.
Right, more testing equals more numbers, right?
Yeah. No. But I live really close to there. I mean, right now I'm about 8 miles from the base, so I'm there at least once a week, and I have been for a long time. You do see a lot of crashes out there. Usually it's motorcycles and pickup trucks. Mm-hmm. Things that kind of inherently don't like corners so well. And yeah, look, I mean, you put 500 horsepower cars in the hands of people that, I don't know what's their background. You're going to see more crashes. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think anybody can learn to control all that. I think cars are pretty good. I think modern safety electronic nannies are pretty good. Traction
Yeah.
control is pretty good. So
I agree with all that. It's when people turn it off.
Yeah, but I don't even know if people know how to turn it all the way up. I think most crashes up on Angeles Crest, if I had to guess, it's you're going too fast for a corner and you late brake and then you like understeer off the cliff.
Or bring it around in the exact same
think,
scenario, but yes.
Yeah, or you oversteer off. But I don't think like people are doing like tricky drift shots and like losing it because the nanny's off. I think they're just overdriving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Somebody pointed this out to me, I guess, about a year ago, and then I realized that it actually got quite popular. I guess there's I'm not sure which one, so don't quote me on this. I think it's Assetto Corsa, the virtual racing, one of those, or project cars, one of those. They actually have the entire crest and all of you can do Upper Big Tahunga, you can do Naima, all that stuff in a video game. So we were having the conversation, of course, well then of course are people trying to, they're beating their times or whatever in the video game, and then do they take their souped up neon or whatever out there and try to do the same thing? Like, we don't really know. It just curious.
Maybe, but even it's funny with the video games, like and again, I don't even know what I'm talking about because I never play video games, and it's just it's not my thing. But
we don't have to go there.
Yeah, but there's a couple corners on Angeles Crest which are banked funny, and even if you have a really good simulator, there's a couple that are dangerous, and you have to know them, and you learn them, but through experience. And I always think that. I think simulators give people a sense of false confidence. I mean, I tell this story every time it comes up, but I remember years ago I was at the Nürburgring, and they had some Nürburgring simulators in the lobby of some hotel, and so my video crew and I were playing them, and I was barrel rolling on the front straight because I hate video games, and these guys were like popping off, sub 7-minute times, and then the next day on the ring, I'm doing okay, nothing to write home about, but I'm doing good. And these guys, they were scared out of their minds to actually drive. So it's a video game. It's not real life. It never will be real life.
I like that you brought up Nürburgring. That's the one everybody talks about, of course, because the hops aren't the same, and camber isn't the same, and just the way you carry speed. Whatever you see in the video game it's just not the same. And I grew up in Lime Rock. I'm sure you've driven on other tracks.
In a video game and then hit reset or whatever. But if you crash on a mountain, you just die. I mean, it's a little different, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
High stakes, very high stakes.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never, and I've never been good at racing games, so maybe I'm just like negatively biased against them. I know I have a friend who claims he's becoming a better driver by training on video games.
I mean, it depends on what you want to learn, right? It depends on how you learn, what you want to learn. Yeah. Before, when we were talking about the Bronco, you said you kind of have you didn't say policy, but you have a thing where you generally aren't going to buy something unless you've driven it. Where did that come from? Is that just, is that just good buyership, or?
I mean, it's just, I professionally review cars for a living. So if my opinion is going to have any credence, carry any water, hold any weight, whatever, however you term it, like I should actually drive the thing before I render a verdict on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty good at reviewing cars. So
sure.
But I get that a lot. Like people say, oh, which one do you like better, the new AMG Black Series or the McLaren 765 LT? It's like, I've driven neither, so I like them both. None. I mean, I'm sure they're cool. I've driven the R and I've driven the 720S plenty. I can imagine what more power and better aero would do to the cars, but maybe it screws them up. Maybe they made the suspension terrible. Like, the classic example is the AMG GT-C, the horribly named C, which is actually the best car Mercedes makes right now, and everyone thinks it's a convertible, but it's not. When they went from the C, 550 horsepower, to the R, they changed out the rear suspension from normal electric dampers to Multimatic spool valve shocks, and they ruined the car. It works on a track, miserable on the street. No one really likes the R that much, except for my friend Stephanie loves it. But anyways, It's a brutal backbreaker of a car. The C, which no one knows about because the name is so stupid. At the Cars and COVID, when I saw you on Sunday, Farrah walked up to me. He's like, "Dude, totally, the C. You were so right. Like, that's the car." I'm like, "Yeah, it is."
Does he have it now?
He had it. But like, and then it's like whenever I tell Mercedes like your name is so stupid, they go, "Yeah, you should have seen what they were gonna name it." So,
yeah. When that's the answer, it's just not good enough.
Yeah. So, hang on 1 second. I just got a note from work.
Sure, go ahead. This will be exciting.
I'm ruining.
We're gonna get this is a peek into the brain of Johnny Lieberman. He's answering a work email right now.
I have a meeting, but I thought my meeting was in a half hour, so I just wrote. I thought it's a half hour from now. But anyways, you got me till 1.
Are you sure? You can go. We can do this later.
No, it's good. Okay, hang on. I was going to return.
This is fun. It's more like the Tom Green show where he just kind of hangs out.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it. That was nothing.
Man, it's like, what do you want? You're lucky my kid's not running in here.
Well, that was one of the reasons we did it today, right? And the timing and everything. This seems to be podcast season. It seems like everybody's on everybody's podcast. Everyone's home. All we have is our computers and our cameras and whatever. Has your schedule been stacked with different slots of shows and stuff you've been doing?
I mean, I did the Truck Show podcast last night at 7. So,
but you were on. Well, you're actually. We should talk about that because you go. What did Spike's text say to you after your last appearance on his Spike's Car Radio?
Yeah. I don't know if he'll admit this in public, but he said, "Congrats, you're no longer a guest. You're a cast member." It was a particularly good podcast. I don't know
big promotion.
Yeah. Pays the same. So, anyways, yeah, I've been doing a lot of podcasts. Although weirdly, I've only done Smoking Tire once, and I've probably been on that one like over the years, 15 times, something like that. So.
Oh really? Oh man, we hope to do
but
that.
I've been doing a lot. I've just been doing a lot of podcasts.
I remember when you were sitting here, you said you're a guy who doesn't listen to podcasts.
Never.
Still the same, even though you've got all this extra COVID time and everything.
No, yeah, I'm trying. If I have any free time, I'm trying to read books, which is failing miserably. But it's too much time on Instagram. But I got a new book yesterday, so I'm very very excited about it.
Oh wow! Oh sure, of course. Yeah. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. So I'm on page like 60 something. So it's pretty good.
Would you ever consider doing your own podcast? I think I asked you that when you were here, but life has changed.
Yeah, I don't know what it just seems like a lot of work, and I have no idea how you make money doing it. You know what I mean? Like it seems like I'd be starting at ground zero, 10 years behind everybody else.
Well, but you're you, so you have that. I mean, I was ground zero starting behind everybody else because nobody knew who the hell we were. But you're you already.
The other thing is, and I've said this to Matt before, but like you gotta kind of be nice to everybody, and I'm not really into that. You know, there's a lot of people that I just like. I won't mention them, but I just hate them, and like the idea of like having to look at them for 2 hours or being in a room with them for 2 hours, just don't want to do it. I'm sure there's plenty of people that hate me too, but so that's always been a thing. Now. That said, Motor Trend, we've been talking about doing a podcast with me. So maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we talked about this. I have a radio background. I love radio.
Yeah.
Podcasting is similar to radio, although you can answer text in the middle of it.
That's right. Coming up at the top of the hour. Did you actually do radio, or was that just in school?
In school. I was the general manager of my college radio station, and then I always thought I'd go into it. I did, and then when I happened to graduate in 1997 from college in San Francisco at the height of the .com boom, where if you had a pulse, you could be making six figures just by like spouting off buzzwords, and for 3 years it was great, and then it all died. So I never pursued that, but I like I said, I do enough podcasts now, which I sort of do it.
Well, it must be, because perhaps just your writing and everything, you formulate your thoughts into communication so well that you're just good at. If you wanted to do this job, you'd automatically sort of be good at it. You already know how to speak your opinions. You know how to just be yourself and have that flow. Stuff that trips people like me up who were just kind of new at it. You already have all that
Right.
shit down.
I guess. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I guess I am. I don't know. It just see. I guess, and part of it is I'm chicken. Like I liked. Well, what if it fails? And
What's failure?
I don't know. And then like part of it is I've been at Motor Trend for a decade now, and it's like, for at least for what I do, it's a pretty, big fish in a relatively small automotive media pond, and like, how would I gauge success? I don't know. I don't know. I'm always. That's why I never start businesses. I'm just scared, and it seems like a lot of hassle. I'll work for someone else and collect a paycheck, but
It
some kind
so
of
fully
chicken.
works out.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes
So
sense, and it seems to work out for you. So there's no reason to change it. But
so
just you,
far, knock on some wood. I'll hit the can over there. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I get that question a lot. So I guess some people would like me to do a podcast, but I also think I appear in enough podcasts that like I don't have much else to say. You
right.
know.
Right. Well, maybe now that if you're on Spikes more regularly, maybe that will become the outlet where, like, oh, if you want to see him on a podcast, I mean, he'll go be guest otherwise, but if you want to see him, look at him there.
I don't think he was actually serious. I think he's a comedy writer who was being funny. It was a really good episode. And again, not to plug another podcast on your show, but
Please do. Yeah.
yeah, we weren't even talking about cars at this point, but it devolves into this. If you guys know who Paul Zuckerman is, and if you don't, he's Spike's co-host, but he's sort of
He's
this
been
like,
here. We love Zuckerman.
yeah, he's this brash, loud lawyer, but he sort of
A New
turns
Yorker in LA for
into,
sure.
what's that?
A New Yorker in LA for sure. Zuckerman.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a character, but he still does have that horrible accent, and he um he like makes this very hardcore feminist statement in the middle of an otherwise jokey podcast, but his accent is so bad that Spike and I have no idea what he's saying for 6 minutes, and then hilarity ensues once we figure it out, and it's quite funny.
It's a
So he's talking
sitcom
about
moment. You
feminine
all thought he was
hygiene.
saying one thing and he was saying something else.
No, it was just the weirdest thing. But he's talking about maxi pads, for lack of any semblance of euphemism there. Yeah. So for some reason, Paul likes to go to the drugstore and look at women's pants, as he says. And so I thought he was saying pants
Pants.
for pants. I thought he was saying pants for 6 minutes, and Spike had no idea what he was saying. And then it's like, wait, why are you looking at maxi pads? Anyway, it's a good episode. It's a fun episode.
So everybody, please go check out Johnny's
Yeah, you
episode
gotta check it out.
of Spike's Car Radio with Zuckerman and Spike
Yeah,
Ferris
yeah.
did. God, that's
Yeah,
funny.
and I think Spike actually titled it the one where Zuckerman talks about ladies' pads.
Oh, well, then it should be easy to find.
Yeah. But
What
it was just kind of
can we talk about that cars and COVID and coffee up at Malibu Kitchen?
it's over. It's officially over. I mean,
Oh, it
it's
is?
like forget about it. No, I mean like
We
you're gonna
talked
get
about this
COVID.
yesterday. It seems like the bubble's about to burst. It was effing huge last week.
There's too many people. You're just gonna get COVID and die. I mean, I was like hiding out for half of it. Yeah, it's crazy, and the cars that showed up like were mind blowing. Like what was it, a Le Mans winning Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase,
Yep.
driven by Bruce Myers shows up like,
Screen used in Ford versus Ferrari as well.
yeah. Somebody said like, well, what do you think the value of all those cars is? I'm like, well, I know one of them's 20 million. You know,
Just that
so
one.
and if you
There was
add
a
the rest up,
959. There was a Mura. There was tons of shit.
yeah, so that's $1 million plus $1 million, so 22 million with those three cars. Farrah's car's got to be $500,000. And his is actually wasn't even that expensive compared to some of the other stuff that was there. So yeah,
But to me, we were the co-host yesterday was talking about it. It was almost kind of like Trancas. It was sort of like, well, all right, once the cops start rolling in and checking plates and everything else, and then yanking everybody on Malibu Canyon on the way home, it's like, well, can it keep going? I mean, or does it get smaller? Does it move?
No,
What happens?
things like this, they're always a victim of their own success, and because there's no cost of entry, like everyone's going to come, and everyone's just bored out of their skulls.
Right.
But you mentioned Malibu Canyon, so I was driving out, and because I was driving a GT4 with no cup holder, I had a bottle of Coke in my right hand, and there was a Jeep coming, and you blend right before you go up the hill in a Malibu Canyon.
By the
You know,
church there, yeah.
Wrangler, and I was just in the wrong gear, and like I just had this Coke held in such a way that I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to downshift. I'll let the Jeep go in front of me. So the Jeep was going 38 miles an hour. I passed 15 CHP cars.
Yep.
That luckily I was trapped behind somebody going 38 miles an hour because I would have been pulled over a dozen times. But 15 CHP cars were coming down the hill and just pulling everyone over. It was nuts.
What time was that you left and drove through there?
10, called, yeah, right around 10. So right when it was breaking up, probably like 9:55 actually.
We were saying the same thing. I thought it was 10, but it was probably 9:45 or something like that. Did the same run, and you come around Civic Center Way there, where you get on right by Pepperdine, and you get onto
Yeah.
Malibu Canyon. Two guys pulled out to follow me, and I was like, "Oh, sure, they're going to light me up for sure." And they had lit people all the way up down. They had come down the canyon and towards like where the old Malibu Cars and Coffee used to be at the bluffs there, and they had them lined up there, and there was like enough that I couldn't count, 7 or 8, something like that.
Yeah.
And the two that came behind me, they didn't light me up. They literally disappeared by the time I got to the top past the church where you were talking about. But from Malibu Kitchen to the tunnels, there was no exaggeration. Like I thought there was like 40 or 50 cops because there were at least 10 spots of there was never less than 2 together. Sometimes there was 3 or even 5 together, where one guy was set up and then they were all lined up together to,
Yep. And
like a strategic move.
Yeah. Look, well, first of all, Malibu's been a shit show since coronavirus started. I rarely get pulled over, and I've been pulled over twice, one ticket in Malibu since coronavirus, and speeding. I mean,
We weren't sure if it was exhaust or windows or what.
no, it was speeding, but it was also like I was following these 3 cars, and the guy's like, "What 3 cars?" And then he's like, "Oh, I got you on laser," and I go, "Well, if you have me on laser, then you have a history. Go back and look." And he's like, "All right, yeah, you're right. There were 3 cars in front of you, but you get the ticket because you're in a white Porsche." I was like, basic, he didn't say that, but that's what happened. Anyhow, I'll be fighting that one, but Malibu is just like done. Don't drive through Malibu right now, especially on the weekends. It's just it's bad. But yeah, I mean, I've never. It looked like there was like some kind of event. I mean, I've never seen so many CHP where there wasn't like some kind of horrible accident going on. It was
And then when
crazy.
you were driving them, did you only see them coming at you? Because what I was
Yes.
passing was they were just, it looked like a sea of black and white from all the cruisers, and then just Skittles from all the colors of like anything with graphics, anything that looked modded in any way. It was like the Racing Street Team or something was out
Yeah.
to like bust
I
everybody.
I missed that when I saw him. I saw 2 CHP right when I got behind the Jeep. I saw 2 CHP driving down, and I was like, "Phew, dodged that bullet." And then there was like 9 of them in a row, and then every 30 seconds another one would go by, and I counted 15 black and whites.
Wow. All the way to the
exploding.
Calabasas border.
No, they like I said, a pack of 9 came, and so they were done probably by the first tunnel.
Okay.
But I was just shocked at the volume. I know what they're doing, And look, to be fair to the cops a little bit, people act like jackasses when they leave Cars and Coffees. It's a long-standing tradition.
M4s
I
and
was a
Mustangs, right?
jackass. You got it on film. I was a jackass on Friday when I left Newcomb's. It's not a super quick car, but I went pretty quick in that Porsche because I knew you were filming me.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah,
You're out in the woods in the middle of nowhere.
I know, but I'm saying like people leaving Cars and Coffee do stupid things. And look, you're around all these awesome cars, and you get into this bubble world where you're like, this is rad. Everybody loves cars. I love cars. Car go fast. Me go
Excited.
fast.
So excited.
Yeah, and it's mostly the younger kids because it's for them it's new. Like I've been going to Cars and Coffee, I don't know, since it started down in Irvine, and whenever that was, the original one at the old PAG building, the Ford building.
2001
Um,
or something.
Wow, okay, I haven't been going that long, but I started probably going in like 2004, something like that. And yeah. So people do dumb things, and it's easy picking for the cops. Um, that said, speed limits are too low in Malibu, and like, come on, man, you're just wrecking these guys' day for no reason. Like what is the speed limit on Malibu Canyon? It's like walking pace or something, 45.
I think
Like,
it's 45, but I mean, there are places, yeah, where you just, if you know how to drive, you wish it were a closed course so you could just, I mean, some of the camber on some of those turns and the beauty that you're going to pass by, it looks like Monaco.
yeah, it's just too low. But yeah, that's an argument we'll never win. People think that going like 55 miles an hour like slaughters people or whatever. So it's just a
Slaughters
shame.
everybody.
It's just a shame, man. Like it's like I don't know. Angeles Crest is some parts of it are 40 miles an hour, some parts are 45, some parts are 55. Is there really a difference between the 45 and the 55 zones? Like, no. You know what I
You know
mean?
what's funny? I don't agree with that. I find that if you know the road, there isn't a difference, and I agree with you. But for somebody who doesn't, I actually find that, if you can find a line in what the road does, yeah, it's the same. But for somebody who's literally following the reflectors and the lines and looking out at the deer and whatever else, it is a
Yeah.
little bit trickier in that first stage.
Well, I would just say
Just
maybe,
tighter.
maybe. Well, okay. Not never, but I never drive super crazy in that first stage because it's so littered with people, and a lot of people just go up there to sightsee. Now,
Yep.
once you pass Angeles Forest, all bets are off. Like, please get out of my way, please, Mister Prius. Like, just there's so many other places to go hiking. Get off my road is how I think of it. Um, but yeah. That first stage is a little tighter, but even 40 is still low. I mean, like,
Yeah. In a
most
modern car,
cars,
especially.
yeah, modern cars can kind of go more than 40 without being dangerous. But anyways, this is an argument we'll never win. You know what I mean? You just never win this argument. So,
Johnny Lieberman, how are you during all of this? It seems like you're still
or
test driving cars, you're still reviewing cars, you're still out talking to people at Cars and Coffees. Like, what actually has changed for you?
I'm, I guess I give off that appearance, but I'm very bored. I just sit around bored all the time.
Really?
Um, Yeah, it's. I mean, the cars have been fun. The cars have been really fun, and I kind of just decided, okay, I'm going to be locked in my house for the unforeseeable future. I'm just going to book as many supercars as I can, and they gave them to me. But what do you do with a supercar in lockdown, right? I'm not going anywhere. There's nowhere to go, so I'll go up to Angeles Crest. Did it once, like I know I'm doing it again next week. And I know, and everyone's like, "Oh my! If I had that car, I would do it every time." And like, yeah, I remember 15 years ago when I first started doing this, I would sleep in cars. I couldn't get, but like, it is a job. What people don't get is that when I go up to Newcomb's in the morning and I stop, I write about 500 words, and then I go down and I stop and I write about 500 more words. So I am working and thinking
Oh,
about,
interesting.
yeah, because they're getting reviewed. Um,
Well, I knew you were working, but I didn't know your process. That's very cool to me that you do it mid in your
you
cycle while you're
know,
actually driving.
It's funny. It's one of those things where my worst enemy in my life and my career is my own laziness. I'm so fucking lazy. Pardon my French. I'm so lazy. I just like my wife came out this morning and she's like, "Have you been sitting on the couch for an hour looking at your phone?" I was like, "Yeah." Um, so I could have been writing about cars. And it took me until this point in my career to really get in the habit to always stop and always write down my immediate impressions.
Hmm.
And it seems like, oh, what a nightmare. But what it does is when I go to write, it makes it so much easier.
Because you're there in
And
the flow.
it's just already done. A lot of your work's done for you.
Okay.
And this is how obscenely lazy I am. I just learned, and I mean, since coronavirus started, that if you have an iPhone that notes, automatically shows up on notes on your computer. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I use it all the
So,
time.
so I used to dread, because I'm so lazy, you'd have to then like go open notes on your phone and hit email and type in your own email address, and then now it's just right here.
Close this
So,
device, open that one.
oh my God, it's like
Thank you,
changed
Apple.
my life. Yeah, Steve Jobs, if you're listening, you have changed my life. The fact that notes goes both ways. Um, so I do take copious notes when I'm driving, and I have friends that always want to go driving with me, and maybe at first I'd let them go, but I tried now to do all the driving by myself, just because, well, two things. One is, if I'm chasing another car, actually if I'm chasing another car, I'm okay. If somebody's behind me, I get really weirdly competitive, and I just gotta go. I gotta outrun them.
Me too.
And so I think about that rather than thinking about what I'm going to say about the car. And so when I'm by myself, I'm much better about taking notes. And I have a couple of friends that they're mad at me. They're like, "Dude, you had that car? Like, I want to see the McLaren." And I'm just like, nah.
In the
And we
zone.
actually changed up our process a little bit at Motor Trend, or at least I did. When the comparison tests I'm on, we did this a while ago, but it's like, let's stagger it by a minute. So if we're going to be on Angeles Crest and we're going to review the same stretch of it, you go and then look at your watch, and 60 seconds later you go. That way we're not chasing each other, because I just get so competitive, and
Like a rally stage. I love that.
yeah, but it's just you just stop paying attention to what you should be paying attention to, like how's the car, and then you're just trying to outrun your buddy. Like, oh, I can't let Scott be faster than I am. Like, screw that. Well, Scott is faster than you. Nothing you can do about it.
That's right.
So,
Let him pass.
What's that?
Let him pass. Let Scott
Yeah.
go.
I mean, and once in a while we'll catch each other. I mean, that does happen. Like we were doing crazy SUVs the other day, and what was I driving? I was in this AMG that was sadly malfunctioning a little bit. It was a GLE 63S. It was like the traction control was malfunctioning, and it would just like, not even the traction control, the stability. So when you'd come to a corner, it would just turn off the power of the car. So it was just very strange.
Limp mode. Oh gosh.
Just a malfunction. It was an early build car, but this guy Scott Evans I work with, he ran me down, and that was quite embarrassing. He was in
We're
competition maybe. So.
We are just coming up to the top of the hour here, and it's time to almost say goodbye to Johnny Lieberman. Is there anything in the automotive world that you are looking forward to, that you're excited about, that other people should be too? Something coming out that maybe we're not looking at that you are?
Aside from supercars?
Whatever you want.
Oh, I mean, look, yeah, that Black Series we were talking about, like the SLS Black Series, the last AMG Black Series, is like still one of the all-time greatest cars ever made.
Okay.
This one is, that one was 600 horsepower, maybe something I forget, but this one is 720 horsepower, and it's got like the biggest wing I've ever seen, and it looks just super evil. Even in silver, it looks super evil. So imagine like in black.
Yeah, Batmobile.
And then the 765 LT, which is, if they change nothing else, they're taking the tires from the Senna and they're putting those gorgeous tires onto the 720S, a car that's been crying for real tires since it came out. So if nothing else, it's going to just be so good. The McLaren Speedtail, I like supercars. I know that, and I get to drive them. I'm very, very lucky. But like the Speedtail, look at that thing. It's a 3-seater that's limited to 250 miles an hour. It makes 1,000 horsepower, 1,055 horsepower.
And that's going to come out as is? I mean, that thing is probably going to hit.
It's out.
Those stats.
I know a guy, my buddy Mo, Muhammad, but Mo has one already, So yeah, it's like, it's cool.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how U.S. legal it is because of the mirrors, but still, super cool,
That is crazy awesome.
Yeah,
all right,
so,
some good stuff to look out for.
Yeah.
Other than that,
I'm just supercar crazy. Plus, the Porsche Targa's coming. Porsche GT3 is coming. Like,
that's right. All the new 991, 992 variants of all the cars are coming out.
I will be driving the Targa by the end of the month.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't realize it was that close.
I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying that, but yeah, I was
Here's
supposed
your
to
scoop.
drive it. Well, I was supposed to drive it in Germany June 5th, but obviously that ain't happening. So, yeah, so they're coming.
Where do people follow you, Johnny Lieberman? Instagram?
Instagram's the absolute best place to follow me. At Johnny Lieberman. There's no H in Johnny, but at Johnny Lieberman on Instagram. And
Your Instagram is blowing up, brother. I mean, it's
What's
almost
that?
doubled from whenever you were here last. I just can't believe the growth on your Instagram. It's fantastic.
It's good. I got to start doing that stuff where you get people to follow you, but I've just been posting a lot, so it's been good. But no, like
It's working.
doing these podcasts helps, so yeah.
Well, keep it up, brother. We love seeing you, and I'm
Thank
sure we'll
you.
see you out on the road.
Yeah, you will.
Thanks for your time. Johnny Lieberman, buddy.
All right, bro.
Have a good night,
Talk to
brother.
you soon. Bye.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. That's Johnny Lieberman. What a good guy. What a good guy. That was fun. Let's see. I think that's going to do it for us. Mrs. Ryan, like I said, is on assignment, but she loves you all very, very much. I love you all very, very much. We love you at home. Please love one another, and we will see you out there on the road.